I don't like cricket. I love it.
So do I.
And so we thought, since we love cricket, why not get hold of one of, we were certainly a favourite of mine when he was playing, a guy called Gary Cosier. G'day, Gary.
G'day, boys. How are we?
Good. You got Neil and Rob.
And one of the...
That's a pretty scary song for a cricketer.
Yeah, particularly for you having been there and took them on the MCG in your very first test, where you just peeled off the lazy 109 on debut. Gary, that was a long time ago, but I imagine it's still very strong in your memories.
Yeah, it is fairly strong in my memory still. But the nice thing about that was... when people who are still old enough to remember it will say to me sometimes, I was in a car between Hay and Balranald or something, and I was listening to it on the radio, and I remember it, well to this day, sort of thing, And it's really nice when other people have a good memory of it. That's nice.
Well, let's go back a little bit before that, because your cricket started at one of the famous clubs in Melbourne, the Northcote Cricket Club, but it took you to two other states. South Australia before the Australian selectors got you, but you're also quite a good Australian rules footballer. So did you go through that normal teenage thing of, what am I going to do with my life here?
Not so much. Well, late teens. I guess I played for Fitzroy in the under-19s and then up to the reserves. And that was at a time when by the time I got to the reserves, my cricket was just sort of, it had flattened out a bit. I played a couple of state games when the Australian team were playing against the rest of the world back then. And cricket was pretty flat, and I would have just loved to have played one game with the Roys, just to, in the senior team, just to run down the race with Kevin Murray and Gary Wilson. And
I'm getting a bit emotional here now, Gary. Sorry. The Mighty Lions. Go Roys.
Yeah, so I had an invite to go to South Australia to play cricket for one of the clubs there, and I was invited back to the senior squad for the Roys for the next year, but it made the decision to go, and I guess that worked out okay, but just one game would have been nice.
Yes, I think you and I both would say that. I wasn't even on the under-19s list.
Right.
Gary, your early days at Northcote would have coincided with the end of the Bill Laurie's career, a very busy man. But did he get around the Northcote Cricket Club much and have much of an influence on your career?
Yeah, look, I was really lucky. I went down to Northcote when I was 11 years old and played in the Force. The same year I went down there, a young chubby chap a year older than me by the name of Rodney Hogg went down the same year. And so Hoggy and I went through together with Northcote under Bill as the Australian captain. And eventually, after 4 years of going in last and second last and third last in the fourths and the thirds and then up to the seconds where I started to get some runs, I got to open with Fando for 5 years as a 15-year-old right through to the age of 20, and that was just an incredible experience because whenever he came back from Australian tour, he'd came back, maybe played a half a dozen games for us, and he'd get 100 or 200.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing that great players, once they get to that even state level now, sadly they're lost to club cricket almost totally. We've certainly seen that down at Geelong once. Aaron Finch had made higher levels. He rarely appeared for the Geelong Cricket Club, which was very sad for a lot of young players at the club, but also the fans in the town that enjoyed going down there. But back in those days, the Redpaths, Lauries and Stackpoles, they spent a lot of time playing club cricket.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they all did. Bobby Cowper, Hawthorn East Melbourne. Yeah, I mean, everybody played. Ray Jordan was abusing everybody.
Oh, he's giving one too.
Froggy Thompson, Alan Connolly, all those guys, they all played, and it was a fantastic experience. And I think that was the strength of Australian cricket. That and then the state cricket was so strong that the step up was always a big one, but it wasn't quite so big.
Gary, did you sort of do the opposite to Max Walker by the same? Were you a bowler earlier who developed into a batsman rather than him going the opposite way?
No, I was a batsman who bowled a little bit. But when you're 11 playing against 20-year-olds, you don't get the ball all that often, as you could imagine. And Hoggy bowled a little bit then, but only started to bowl as he got a bit bigger and stronger. And I just developed my wobblers as I went through. But I was always a batsman who bowled a little bit.
The rise to opening the batting, you probably batted in most numbers between 1 and 6, but you seem to be, in the words of the great cliche, you like the ball coming on. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, look, I was a good player of spin bowling. In fact, I loved playing against spinners. I wasn't a great player of that steady medium pace, so they would give me the shits a bit. I'd rather... sorry, we're on radio.
That's all right. No,
very colloquially Australian comment. Carry on, Gary.
I would... I found it easier if, when I say easier, if Roberts was trying to knock my head off, then Botham was bowling reasonable pace outswingers.
Yeah.
That was kind of me, I guess. But I liked playing against spin. That was always good.
The thing that I think my highest score at any level of cricket was 40, and that was in a vets game when I was bowling against a bloke who was older than Rob. And, it was, to me, the concept of being out there for a long time just freaked me out. When I got a fast bowler bowling at me, I just simply wouldn't see it. It would just go past me. But, if you're making centuries against the Robertses of the world, you're standing 20 metres away from someone who's hurling a red thing at you at about 150 k's an hour, trying to knock your block off, and then doing it 250 times in a row. It just mind boggles.
It's like anything, I guess. It's like being a good golfer. Not that I've ever got to that stage, but you just practice it and it happens. For some guys it happens easy, like for Greg Chappell it happened easier than it certainly did for me. But for me, I guess it was easier than other people who gave it a go. It's just a matter of practice. And when you practice at that level, and this is the advantage of players coming back to district and to state level, when you practice at that level, it's just, you get in the flow of doing it. That's what you expect. You certainly get ready early. We didn't have any helmets, of course. A little pink box and a thigh pad that was,
might as well have had a bed
not much
sheet
bigger
on.
than a handkerchief.
Yeah, that's right. So the idea was to use your bat and
good concept
early.
Gary, you were in the team at the time of World Series cricket when England. I saw some quotes from your back in those days where you're on tour in England, and there was certainly two particular teams together as one in the Packer camp, one in Not. You were in the Not camp, and I read some quotes from Ian Chappell about your game just prior to that. Did you think maybe that he might have been the one that had already put the no stamp on your CV when Kerry Packer was looking for recruits?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've never had that discussion with Ian. We nearly had that discussion in front of about 200 people one day, and he was distracted. It was at the funeral for Gary Gilmore, and Rick McCosker, myself, Ray Bright, all the boys were standing around, and Ian was beside me, and he said, Cos, I believe you blame me for you not getting an invite to World Series cricket. And I said, I've never said that, Ian. And he said, no, I know you haven't, but... And everybody stopped talking and put down their drinks, and they were listening to what was going to happen. And Ian was called up on the stage to make a eulogy for Gary, and he never came back to the group. We never finished the conversation, so it kind of stopped there. So, but it was made, I think they picked that team started to pick the team after the Pakistan series here in Australia, because by the time we got to New Zealand, John Cornell and those guys were there, talking to Rod Marsh, Dennis Lilly, Greg and that, so that their team was pretty much picked by then.
In hindsight, do you really regret not being part of it, or did you like more the opportunity to spend a bit more time under the genuine baggy green?
It was lovely to play under the baggy green. I guess I felt a little bit left out for a while, a little bit angry, disappointed probably, because at the time that I wasn't picked, I was averaging 44 for Australia.
There it is, the 15-minute mark.
It's only 13-minute mark, actually, but hopefully Gary, I asked him very nicely to ring back straight away if that happened, and it will. If not, we might just take a quick break and call him back. But at least he's aware of the circumstances. Here he is, I think.
Here we go.
We've got you back. Yep, hold the line. Yep.
Okay.
That's better.
There
Thank
we
you.
go.
Thank you, Gary. Hopefully we can drag another 15 minutes out now.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, so we were just in New Zealand. We were recruiting for Packer, but you were on the outer.
Yeah, apparently. As I was just saying, I was averaging 44, 45 after 9 or 10 games, and I just won the batting average against Pakistan. And I didn't think there was any real reason for me not to be in the best 30 or 40 blokes in Australia at that stage. And I'd never had an argument with Ian, never had anything with Ian except a really good relationship, to tell you the truth. He was a great mentor for me when I was at South Australia. So I'm not quite sure, to tell you the truth, but, you know, that's the way it goes. But it was nice for me. It was good to play against the Indians for Australia when they were here with a great spin attack. It was an experience to go to the West Indies. When I was nearly going to say it was good to go to the West Indies. It was an experience when they had their 5-man pace attack and all that sort of stuff. So you still wouldn't change it, would you?
Well, I suppose not. And the other thing about that period of time for me, I was really into the game then. The great leadership of Australian cricket had gone to Packer, and Bob Simpson had been called back to captain the side, which he did in that Indian series and against the West Indies. An interesting character who really did divide. There's a lot of his former teammates, players that played under him, that I've seen speak at social functions and weren't very complimentary about Bob Simpson's captaincy. How did you find him coming back as a 42-year-old and you guys, all young players, looking for some genuine leadership at that time?
Yeah, it was really hard. Bob had a good series against the Indians because he was a great player of spin, you know, and he got 100 in one of the games. And by the time it got to the West Indies, it's a bit different when you're playing at home. So when you've got a team of young blokes who a lot of them were pretty not self-opinionated, strong.
Confident.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. All those Western Australians, you know what they're like over there.
Yeah, very confident.
Yeah.
On good terms with themselves.
Yeah. So it was tough. It was almost like the England thing the Packer thing in England, where there was myself and Tomo, who'd played about 20 tests at that stage. I think maybe a few more than that. I was one of the senior players who was up to probably 12 tests at that stage, or 13 tests. And the rest were brand new almost. And to get those blokes on the same plane as Bobby was pretty hard. He was a disciplinarian, Bob. You know, he was a hard man like that, and that was terrific, really. But he couldn't understand how the young blokes had a different view to things than he did. And a lot of talking behind people's backs went on, and that wasn't very good.
We are duty bound under law, Gary, to advise you that we must use the phrase back in our day at least once in this program, right? So just going back, they were different days when I wore a younger man's clothes, all that sort of stuff. The young folk who are watching cricket now, they would say, well, a 42-year-old playing cricket, at the test level, it's not a lot different to Usman Khawaja. He's coming up to 40, isn't he? Yeah. But I think the thing that I found fascinating is he had given the game away in 68 and came back in 81 or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's right.
So it would be like someone, like, I don't know, Stuart Law, someone completely from yesteryear coming back. That was the fascinating part. And so that culture, if you like, would have been a complete brand new culture.
Yeah. Well, just on that theme, if the Lions get any more injuries on their back line, Kevin Murray might have to go on a flank or something.
He'd go all right, wouldn't he?
A tackle. He'd show him how to tackle, don't worry.
Or would he ever?
Look, back when I was young, back in the day, if you weren't in an Australian team or had your run of a lot of games in the Australian team and you were early 30s, you were kind of expected to stand down for the young blokes coming through, So not many played past the age of 32, 33, because we all need to go and get a job somehow.
Yes.
So you'd spend a lot of time away from home trying to get a job, or if you had a profession, that was fine. But you needed to get on with your life in your early 30s, and there wasn't any, $120,000 contracts for a state player. That just didn't exist. $20 for laundry was about all you got.
Cover the fuel.
Now, Gary, you come back from the West Indies, and one of the great periods of Australian cricket, I thought, but there was a lot going on. You mentioned your good mate Rodney Hogg, who, like you, went to South Australia to break in and had one of the most amazing individual series against England at the MCG. But just that change of captaincy again, Graham Yallop, who was probably never really the ideal person for the job, but certainly cemented his place in the side. One of the most beautiful players to watch that I've ever seen, I think. But
yep.
that obviously a very turbulent time for the team. And then, of course, the Hogg and Yallop relationship, I guess, in the dressing room was one that you guys, I don't know, would you enjoyed it or was it cringeworthy?
Oh, well, look, that relationship went back a long way to our school cricket days, where Graham was Wesley or a Carey boy, I think probably Wesley. And Hoggy was from Northcote High or Thornton High.
Cultural difference there, Gary.
Never the twain would meet. And Hoggy was as quick as a 16 and 17-year-old as he was when he was a 26-year-old. He was super quick back then, and maybe even quicker. And he thought that Graham maybe took a half a step towards square leg on one or two occasions, and he never let him forget that. And Hoggy's a hard man. He'll respect anybody as long as they are prepared to get in behind him and all that. And Graham was a great player. I mean, he was a wonderful player. But Hoggy had this maybe a bit of lack of respect.
Did it make it a bit difficult after you're coming from the disciplinarian of Bob Simpson, young players trying to establish themselves, and then you're a little bit better the next year and you're getting along a little bit better, but then you've got this other dynamic in the dressing room?
Yeah, probably, because the control factor wasn't great, and that spread. So there was, and then of course after that you go into Kim Hughes, and then the undermining of him by the people that held him up as a gift to cricket before World Series started. When they came back, Rodney Marsh, Dennis Lilly in particular, those Western Australians, came back and didn't help him, in his career at all, because they still wanted to be in charge. And now this little blonde curly-haired guy, was now telling them what to do, or trying to anyway. It didn't work, I don't think. But so that was really unstable time for Australian cricket.
Well, to take you back to that one game at the MCG, in that Yallop era, you beat England. It was an extraordinary second day's play, which I went to, and there was 40-odd thousand people there, but I still think the noise that was made when Hoggy bowled Jeff Boycott is the loudest noise I've ever heard there, and I've attended AFL or VFL Grand Finals. It was an extraordinary game, and as youngsters, you must have really loved being able to give it back to the Poms.
Yeah, well, look, no, that was the game where the Australian selectors made the biggest selection era in the history of Australian cricket, and they selected Alan Border instead of me.
Oh, right. So that was the turning point game. I thought you played that one and missed after that. No.
I played the Brisbane, Perth, and then I wanted to get back to the MC. I got 44 out of. We've only made about 180, I think, in Perth in the second dig. But they'd already selected the team after the first innings, and I wanted to get back to the MCG where I felt quite at home. Played there twice before, got hundreds both times. Didn't quite make it, so I didn't experience that. I had experienced, Tomo bowling to Viv Richards and Lily bowling to Richards at 5 o'clock at night in the southern stand going crazy. It would have been much the same, I would imagine. It couldn't have been any louder than that, I have to tell you. But
and the bloke who replaced your Border, he was okay, wasn't he?
Oh, look, he was a bit grumpy.
His biggest problem was he always found himself standing on the wrong side of the bat, like Yallop did.
He wasn't as easygoing as I was.
No, that's true. No, I'm sorry, Gary. I thought you were still there. I knew that the demise came quickly, but no, I do apologise. But for a supporter, that was a pretty special game.
Yeah, no, Hoggy had a great series, and he went from bowling pretty short and pretty quick to bowling those, terrific leg cutters that kept on nipping back and getting boikers in front all the time. And it was a fantastic effort. It was just wonderful.
Well, Gary, we sadly have come towards the end of our time together. I'm just interested, before we let you go, the state of Australian cricket at the moment with, the timetable stuffed full of games that are sometimes irrelevant and sometimes worthwhile watching. How do you think Australian cricket is at the minute?
Gee.
Or do we get you back for that conversation another time?
That might take a while, but Steve Smith apart, and I think, Smith had Webster Carey. I think Green's still got a bit to prove under more pressure than the runs he made in the West Indies. The other two, are question marks now. So I think they've got some big problems when they come up against a really good team.
Well, with your permission, if we can get our phones to work better, we might get you back another day, maybe towards the start of the cricket season. We can chat about what's going to happen in the Ashes. What do you reckon?
Yeah, we'd love to, mate. Yeah,
excellent.
All good.
Gary Cosier, what a great thrill to be able to catch up with you. Completely a fluke that he happened to pop up in my Facebook feed as a suggested friend. And I think we might go down that path one day, Gary.
There you go. Why not? Let's be friends.
No, it's absolutely terrific. And we absolutely appreciate you being part of the Two Blokes Chatting radio show this morning.
Yeah, love it. Thank you very much for the entertainment. I was there for the 168 against Pakistan, and it was a joy to see you whacking them all over the place. And well done on a wonderful career. I reckon you probably extracted almost the maximum out of it. Had the selectors been just a little kinder, who knows, there might have been a third 100.
Yeah, all right, mate. Thank you very much. Much enjoyable, boys. And so all the people in Geelong, a big hi from us in Queensland.
And go Lions.
Go Lions. Yeah.
Good on you, mate. All the best.
All the best.